The creative industry, covering everything from product design to filmmaking to architecture. It's worth £21 billion a year to the British economy, and that's set to rise in the coming years. But how do designers create these products? Where do they get their ideas? During this video, we will look at the creative process from beginning to end, from the inception of an idea to the production of the finished article. Whilst this process can be applied to any section of the creative industry, we're going to focus on the process when it is applied to games design. Let's begin. The very first part of the creative process is the brief. A brief can be anything from a single sentence to a several-page document, but the length of a brief isn't really important. The purpose of a brief is to outline the goals of the project and state what the outcome of the project is supposed to be. Although a long brief is more comprehensive, the lack of information in a single sentence can give the designers a much more open-ended project. After the brief has been analysed, the next stage of the process is to begin generating ideas. During this stage, it isn't good practice to generate a single idea and never look at it again. It's best to generate as many ideas as possible, even if they're only loosely tied onto the project, as the first idea you come up with is highly unlikely to be your best or most suitable idea. After many ideas have been generated, the designers must generate more ideas, then more ideas, then more ideas, then more, then more, then more, then... well, you get the idea. After as many ideas as possible have been generated, you have to start filtering down to the best and most practical for the project. It's not good practice to get attached to your ideas. If you do, you may well choose a worse idea that you like over a better, more practical idea. After the idea generation is complete, the next stage is researching. For a game, this research would include researching the genre and target audience, as well as desired aesthetic styles, and games that are similar to the one you wish to produce. You would also research elements for the environment, character, and prop and object designs in order to inspire the design stage. Research material could include looking in books, magazines, and newspapers, as well as visits to museums and galleries, and online research. Research can also be conducted by going out and looking at things that are similar to what you wish to appear in a game. For example, if the game you are building is set in the Victorian era, it's a good idea to go out and look at Victorian architecture, clothing and objects. Whilst the internet has a vast database of these things, nothing beats going out to look at the real finished product. After the research has been conducted, the experimentation stage begins. During this stage of development is when techniques and processes, as well as materials, will be tested to show how useful they are to the project or how well they work. In video game design, this would be the stage where you would mess around with software, try to discover its advantages and limitations, as well as experimenting in physical materials, such as attempting to make an environment from card, or making a 3D character from modelling clay. Another way of experimenting is rapid prototyping, where models are built very quickly from pre-made parts. Any concept art that is being produced is also produced during the experimentation stage, as the purpose of concept art is to experiment with the feel of the game. The next stage in the process is the design phase. During this stage, every aspect of each environment, character, prop, and the graphical user interface is designed. Anything that has to be storyboarded, such as cutscenes or events within the game, are also storyboarded during this stage. The best method for this is to do as many thumbnail and quick sketches as possible, and then use your favourite parts from those sketches to do a few more sketches, and so on, until you are left with only 1 or 2 designs for every element. It is a good idea to gather inspirational and reference images to create mood boards for the thing you are designing, as well as utilising the research gathered at the beginning of the project. By the end of the design phase, every significant element will have been designed, and have its own design sheet that can be handed over to the modellers, animators, and texture artists. The purpose of the idea generation, research, experimentation, and design stages is information gathering. It's during these stages that all the information used in the final designs is gathered, including the initial concept for the item, references and inspiration, and what works as part of the design and what doesn't. A good final outcome is dependent on good information gathering. An eclectic approach is the best. For example, if you are looking for inspiration for a game, you should look at all types of media, not just other games. Films and books can also provide you with ideas and inspiration. Similarly, non-digital games, such as sports and board games, can also provide relevant information. The likelihood that the previous 4 stages will be carried out in this exact order rigidly is extremely low. The more likely scenario is that all of the stages will be carried out in tandem. The designers would be generating ideas, researching, experimenting, and designing at the same time. This means that if the item you are designing is missing a piece of research about its history or appearance, you can easily look at it, then flick back to designing it, without messing up parts of the process. It also means that new ideas for the project can be implemented partway through, which helps to iron out issues within ideas for the project as they are being revisited regularly. Once everything has been designed, the design sheets are handed over to the modelers, animators, texture artists, and other members of the team to be made into usable models and animations for the game engine. These assets are then implemented into the engine and rendered to create the final game. This is the production stage of the process, where the final outcome of the project is made and released. Any sound files that are required would also be recorded and implemented into the engine. This, however, is not necessarily the end of the process. Especially in the digital industry, it's inevitable that issues will arise after a game has been released, such as glitches, frame rate issues, and other gameplay issues. In order to fix these issues, the designers have to go back to the beginning of the process, with the issue as the brief, and begin everything over again. This process is likely to continue for several years after a product has been released in order to tweak the gameplay as much as possible, and iron out as many issues as possible before the design team moves on to a different project. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the creative process. You can find my personal blog here, and my personal website here, but for now, it's thank you for watching and good night.